Welcome to Mason-Dixon Line of Scrimmage. I'm Johnathon Holder. I'm here with Cole Draughn and the newest member of our team, Tyler Darnell. How are you fellas doing today?
I am doing good. It is a nice, beautiful day outside. We shouldn't be cooped up in here, but we are right now watching some baseball. But we'll get outside in a minute. Throw a little cornhole.
Well, the spring practices came. It's left. A lot of fans are excited about Tennessee. We're going to talk a little bit about spring practice. It culminated April 12th with the spring game. What's your guys' opinions coming out of spring practice of this team, just in general?
There's some explosive plays. You got Malone making some plays, scoring 3 touchdowns. I think over 180 yards, something to that effect. Obviously there's holes, but quarterback going to play a role. It's going to play.
I'm just wondering, are they going to be above 500 this year? That's all I care about. Are they going to make a bowl game? Is there any chance of them doing that this year?
I think it certainly may be tough, but like you were saying in the spring game, Josh Malone, 3 touchdowns, 186 yards. That was pretty impressive for a freshman. He should be going to prom this weekend.
He should be.
And he's out on the field making plays like that. That's pretty impressive. Let's talk about the quarterback situation a little bit. Going into the spring, there was a lot of hype about Riley Ferguson, the freshman. I know Butch Jones is telling recruits that he may be the guy. That's how he recruited Josh Malone. We've seen Justin Worley, we've seen Josh Dobbs, we've seen Nathan Peterman, unfortunately. So there was a lot of hype with Riley Ferguson. Now, he played well in practice, but if we're talking about the spring game in particular, it was more of Justin Worley, and maybe Josh Dobbs had the best game out of all of them.
Can you fathom another season of Justin Worley? I mean, can he lead this team? Don't you think you need somebody else to?
Let's be honest, though, Cole. If they're going to go to a bowl, it's probably going to have to be with Worley.
Is it going to be with? None of the young guys are stepping up.
That can manage a game and get them to 6 or 7 wins. I mean, Dobbs proved he could beat Vanderbilt at the end of last year. I mean,
well, that is true.
He can throw. He threw good last year's spring game. Threw good this year's spring game. Doesn't necessarily mean. I think Worley, if you want to get to a bowl game, is your guy.
Justin Worley's a senior. We talk about a brand new offensive line. Tennessee's probably going to have 5 guys playing in the NFL. I don't know if all of them will get drafted next weekend, but I'd say all 5 starters from last year's team will be playing somewhere in the NFL, so they're going to start a brand new offensive line.
That's not a bad thing. Let's keep that in mind.
Well, that offensive line was pretty good. I mean, 5 NFL players.
Pass blocking.
They were big. They are very big.
Huge.
And seeing them in person, ginormous.
Huge. When you talk about that and you talk about the youth at wide receiver, the youth on the team overall, you think about how many scholarships are on a given football team.
What is it, like 85 or something?
85. Tennessee has 32 newcomers. That's almost half the team are either freshmen or just a newcomer in general.
That's amazing.
I mean, so you're talking about a lot of youth. I'm thinking maybe a senior quarterback is the best thing for this team.
What do you think, Tyler?
Well, the offensive line that Tennessee had last year, to me, over the past 2 years, Tennessee's not been able to run the ball like an elite college football program. Back when Tennessee was running the ball in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I think that offensive line strength was pass blocking.
Agree with that.
Tennessee had a lot of playmakers and Cordell Patterson. They had Bray throwing the ball, but last year they needed a run game to take the heat off of Worley and the new quarterbacks that came in, and they just didn't have it.
Well, to me, in order to succeed in football in general, but especially in the SEC, you've got to have a run game. And I mean, you can only throw it so much, teams are going to start driving back in zone, and they're going to force you to run it. So you've got to have somebody who can do it, but you've got to have that line who's going to open up them holes, and you've got to have a running back with good vision who's able to see the holes and get to it. And if they need to run over somebody, run over somebody.
That's a good point. I mean, running back's got a lot to do with it. Tennessee hasn't had really a legit. Rajon Neal did have a good season, but does he get drafted this weekend? I don't know. Maybe he gets a spot on a team, a chance to make a roster. But I think running back has a lot to do with that. This offensive line, from what I've seen, is probably maybe going a little bit nastier, a little more physical in the run blocking scheme. But they have given up quite a bit of sacks. So it may be a little bit different from last year where pass blocking was a strength. This year it may be a weakness, but run blocking may be a little bit better. But also having Jalen Hurd, 5-star recruit in the backfield, big guy, 6'2", 200, gosh, I don't know, 30 pounds I think he's up to.
That's a big running back.
It is a big running back. So
I think you'll see a lot of secondary people starting to dive out of the way a little bit after seeing that big train coming at them.
you look at him standing next to Devin Young and the other running backs, he sticks out.
One thing you said talking about the line, you say get nasty, and to me that's, if you're going to be a big hog and be down there on the line, you've got to be willing to get dirty, get nasty, get up in somebody's face. You've got to have a little bit of attitude about yourself and you're going to want to just dominate somebody. You can't be the one who's getting pushed back. So, your offensive line, if you're on the defensive line, whatever, you got to have the mentality of you're going to own whoever you're going against. And to me, that's what their line's got to have. They've got to have that mentality.
Look, this line's going to go through struggles. There's no doubt. But I think something you got to keep in mind from last year to this year is the fact that Tennessee has playmakers on the outside. They can now take a 5-yard pass and turn it into 20, 25 yards. They didn't have that last year. Everybody was on north. No one else was out there to stretch the field. Malone or Hurd, either one, freshman coming in.
Don't forget Von Pearson.
And Von Pearson, who, by the way, look out. We have CP all over again.
I think CP's maybe a once in a 10-year player, but he's got a lot of traits similar to CP in regards to speed and just agility.
The point being, I think the receivers and Hurd and the backs, they're going to take a lot of pressure off that offensive line, and you are going to see some sacks just from drop back passing. But at the same time, you're going to be able to get the ball out quick. I think that's going to cut down. I think that's what they're going to try.
I guess that was kind of my question with Wardley when you was talking about him earlier. He don't really run the ball well. They got anybody who's going to be capable of running a little bit at the quarterback position that could maybe get away from if a lineman gets after him or whatever?
I think Josh Dobbs brings that dynamic. Now, I will say the spring game, first play of the spring game was a zone read, and Worley kept it and ran it for 15 yards. So I think this year you may see him run a little bit more. I think last year he wasn't comfortable with that. It's a brand new offense. He probably didn't run that. He was scared to run. I think you'll see him this year run a little bit more. He's not going to have breakaway speed, but he can get a.
Well, to me, with him last year, you look, and there's several times he had an open lane, but it's like you said, it may have been he was scared, and it's not that you got to gain 15 yards, but you got to give that option of whether or not. Because every time I think the defense could just look and say, well, he's not keeping it, they're going to go for the running back. To me, if he'd just keep it every now and then just to keep him honest, I think it would help him out a whole lot. But.
Okay, so if tomorrow was the first game of the season, who you got out of the 4 quarterbacks? Who would you start?
Worley, not a question.
With the young ones coming in, and like you said, 30-something, I guess you got to go with Worley. I like somebody who can move a little bit, but if he can add that to his game just a little bit, I guess.
Look, I'm not down on Dobbs either. Dobbs is a good player. He has the ability to keep the ball. As Cole said, he wants to see someone keep the ball. I think Worley kept the ball. If you go back and look, I guarantee you his keeping the ball to hand it off was probably he probably ran the ball one time out of every 10 that he faked.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But I guess to be a safe bet and honest, you probably go with Worley.
Tennessee fans want to get to the ball game, Holder. No other question about it.
Yeah.
They want to get to a ball game.
I'd go with Worley too. I think with all that youth on the offensive line, and you got Marlon Lane, he's a senior starting in the backfield. I think it would be beneficial for Tennessee to have a senior tailback and a senior quarterback to help all that youth starting the season. Now, could there be a change later in the season if Worley struggles?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think Justin Worley is the one to start. And here's another point. You worry about Riley Ferguson. You got Riley Ferguson and Josh Dobbs. They're both redshirt freshmen now. Or no?
Did you just say Dosh Jobs?
Josh Dobbs?
Oh, I was going to swear you said Dosh Jobs.
Maybe I said Dosh Jobs.
I just wanted out of
I don't know. But you worry about those two, one of those transferring if the other gets the job and runs with it. I think the best thing for Tennessee is Justin Worley take the job, and then you have Dobbs and Ferguson battling it out this time next year, and we're talking who's going to be the quarterback. Keeping depth at quarterback's key. Plus, when it comes to recruiting, Tennessee's going after a couple of elite recruits in Torrance Gibson, a 5-star dual threat out of Florida, and also a pro-style quarterback. I can't think of his first name right now. It escapes me. His last name's Gentry out of New Mexico, Alabama. Oklahoma State wants him bad. That's 2 elite quarterbacks Tennessee wants.
And that's some pretty good program going after him, too.
Exactly. And, I mean, if they see a senior quarterback, that probably doesn't scare them off. If they see two young quarterbacks and one of them takes over, who wants to come when you know you're going to be sitting down for 3 years? So I think Worley, that's the best situation for Tennessee. All right. Let's talk about the newcomers a little bit. We talked about Josh Malone, Jalen Hurd. Both those guys look really good in the spring game. Here's a guy a lot of people may not know about unless you just follow Tennessee religiously. Emmanuel Mosley, a cornerback, just a 3-star recruit. He has a lot of speed. Nobody really knew about him out of North Carolina. He's came in. Let's face it, cornerback, lack of speed in the secondary, that's been a big problem for Tennessee playing SEC teams with speed. This guy comes in, and it looks like from day one, if the game was tomorrow, he'd start, opposite of Cam Sutton, which is a sophomore. So that's another guy to look out for. Any of these other newcomers stick out to you? I mean, Jakob Johnson.
I'm looking forward to Todd Kelly.
Todd Kelly Jr.
I think he's going to lay the boom back in the secondary.
He's another one. He hasn't arrived on campus. There's several. Rashawn Golden, DeAndre Payne's already on campus. So I'm looking forward to a lot of speed coming in, and that's something that Tennessee's lacked. We've talked about the line of scrimmage. Tennessee lost all 5 starters on the offensive line, brand new starting line. Lost most starters on the defensive line, Dan McCullers, a couple of defensive ends. They're going to have a lot of help coming in the summer. Out of the 32 recruits they had, 14 were early enrollees, and they got to play in the spring game. They were there for spring practice. 12 of those were offensive players. The rest of the team that's coming in is going to be defensive players. And a lot of those, Dwayne Hendricks, Derek Barnett, Michael Sawyers, there's a lot of help coming on the defensive line. This is going to be a brand new, revamped defensive line. When you're playing in the SEC, can you really rely on freshmen?
Look, though, I mean, we keep talking about Tennessee's losing all this on the offensive, defensive line.
This is a line of scrimmage league.
This is a line of scrimmage league, but tell me what this line of scrimmage did last year.
Not much of anything.
So maybe it's just me. Somebody may disagree out there. I don't know this is a bad thing. I look at it as a bright spot. I think the biggest thing for Tennessee is going to be their depth. Where's the depth going to come from? Who's going to step in? Who's going to plug the hole? You know, if you say, I think McCullers was probably one of those that you could rely on. I know he got a little tired.
He's a big guy.
But, I mean, you know, like I said, it's going to be important for the rest of the team to take some pressure off of them. You know, secondary locking down their spot. Maybe getting Kurt Magette back this year, which is huge.
Kurt Majette's playing defensive line, too, you know. I mean, that's going to help.
It is going to help, you know.
Coming off the end.
Look, we all know, I mean, A.J. Johnson's good against the run, too. We cannot get him out in the open field. We cannot get him out in the open field. It just can't happen, okay? So I think let's get off the fact that they are bringing in new people, okay? That's not necessarily a bad thing. It may be a little bit of growing pains, but look, it's not a bad thing.
I'll tell you, experience helps, but I'm taking talent over experience any day, in my opinion, because if you can play, you can play, and it's just.
We talked about it. Depth.
Depth is key.
Depth is key in the SEC. You got to be able to rotate.
I mean, you're looking at your Alabama, and their third string people can compete with most teams' first strings. So I mean, that's key. After your first string start getting tired, and you have to start shuffling more people in. Can your second and third string people they start coming in and have an impact on the game? That's where you gotta
again
the rubber makes the road, I guess.
Bowl game here for Tennessee.
I want a bowl game.
I want a bowl game.
Doesn't matter which bowl, just any bowl.
That's one bowl game.
Just a bowl.
Let's go to a bowl.
Spring practice culminated at the spring game. Like I said earlier, Butch Jones wanted, I believe, 80,000 in the seats. I think they got 67 or 68,000. Third best in the SEC behind, I believe, Alabama and Auburn were the top two. And you look at Auburn.
Did you see anybody get married down there?
I didn't see that. I didn't see that at Tennessee.
It seemed to be the trend down in Alabama.
I do
roll that.
I do understand there were some proposals at the Bear Bryant statue, which doesn't surprise me at all. I've seen.
Whenever old Harvey Updike was there, he made that for
Preacher.
Did he marry him? The marrying?
67,000. I mean, that's great for a spring game. I think the lower bowl
was full.
Was full. I mean,
it was a picture perfect day. I mean, 75, 80 degrees outside. Couldn't ask for better weather. 80,000.
Let's be honest. 67,000 was like a home attendance for some of the Dooley's games toward the end. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So I mean, 67 for a spring game.
I mean, for a spring game,
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't don't get excited for spring games.
Look, I mean, 67,000 is great. That place better be packed. August 31st.
Utah State rolls in.
Look, Utah State's not a pushover.
No,
they're going to need everybody in that stadium.
Yeah, and that'll be a key game too. I don't know, but that first game, it's always good to get off to a good start. And that crowd, Neyland needs to be rocking when Utah State comes to town.
Let's talk about that a little bit. It's the first game of the season, Labor Day weekend. Just a few weeks ago, they announced that they're moving that game to Sunday night, 7 p.m. So it's a night game on a Sunday on the SEC network, which will be making its debut that weekend. So talking about a game.
Not on DirecTV, will it, Tyler?
No, it's not. As of right now, I sent my request form in too, and I let them know that I was upset with that. This week.
Something tells me that Dish will be carrying the SEC network by the time.
Well, it doesn't really matter to me because I'm going to be there, so I mean, it doesn't really matter.
There's going to be
for
a lot
that
of
first week.
people.
It doesn't matter. I'm going to be there, so.
Yeah, I'd say for that weekend, DirecTV will have the SEC network because I'm sure there'll be a lot of angry people.
And look, Tennessee's got this game all to themselves. I mean, they are the prime time slot. It's like the kid at the birthday party. They got it all to themselves. Everybody likes their birthday party.
A lot of attention.
The only problem is if that kid decides he's going to act out and he becomes center of attention in a bad way, and we don't want that to happen with Tennessee. We want to control the pace. We want to control the tempo. We want to put a thumping on Utah State. But I'm telling you, that quarterback.
You can't overlook him. He's good.
He's legit.
He is a
Chucky Keaton. I believe this guy will be one of those guys we'll be watching on TV this time next year in Gruden's camp. I believe he's that good. First round potential. They were a 2-point favorite about a month ago when premature line came out in Vegas. I read the other day that Tennessee's a 6-point favorite. So I don't know. Maybe Vegas saw the spring game and saw Josh Malone.
Tennessee's not losing this game. I'm just saying Tennessee needs to be aware.
Yeah,
you can't go in. They will be.
I mean, you're not really going to overlook the first game of the season. No. You're going to be pumped. You're going to be ready to go for it. So I don't really think that game, as far as overlooking them, I don't think they're going to come out and overlook them. But
look, we're not going to get in the whole schedule thing, but it is nice. I mean, you got Florida in October. You know what I'm saying? This game, I think, will help them as far as with the quarterback. I mean, they're going to face a really good quarterback.
Really good quarterback.
I mean, just something to look forward to here.
It's a big weekend. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, Knoxville had to change. They're going to do Boomsday on Saturday, the Tennessee game on Sunday. Usually it's the other way around. They have the opening game on Saturday, followed by Boomsday, and then Labor Day. I think it's just it's going to be a big weekend. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited for. Opening weekend, you got your countdowns ready for that season opener, and we're, like Tyler said, they've got a spotlight. I think it's going to be prime time there. It's always fun to be in the spotlight.
I expect some commits that week.
Commits. I mean, we always want commits.
Good commits.
Yes.
Well, this has been the Mason-Dixon line of scrimmage. We've had some good talking points on Tennessee spring practice. Like I said, fall camp will be here before you know it. That's a big weekend, that weekend, with Tennessee on Sunday. For Cole Draughn, Tyler, I'm Jonathan.